my response video to the Modern Mystic. Hopefully this camera stays where it's supposed to be. Anyway, yeah, trying a new camera. Just for the wideness of it all. Anyway, alright, two issues. The knowing thing and the where's consciousness exactly? I mean, where's it located in this stuff? So they're both kind of related, I guess, because I think one argument kind of leads to the other argument. So I kind of agree that we don't know anything like it's in a vault somewhere, written in sentences and words and stuff. But I mean, obviously, we know something like a piece of marble that's been carved is representing something, a refinement, a change. So we know it as a change, as a structural change that will change the reflexes. But yeah, I mean, I've probably said the word reflex more than anybody else on YouTube, right? I mean, I probably have. And it's like my favorite word. Because yeah, the whole thing is just reflexes. It's just a bunch of knee jerks. And when you put them, when you combine them all, you know, a billion of them or something, you can do something not jerky with all those knee jerks. You could do logic and things. So, and that just is a reflection of the knowing. But what I was trying to say in my video, I think, you know, well, whatever. Well, I'll say it again. I'll just kind of repeat it because I don't know what else to do with it. But the idea is that, yeah, these words come in, and they're automatically associated. I mean, the associations are kind of automatic. There's a very quick association, then a second association, a third, a fourth. There are reactions to those words, to the sound of them, and to what we've done to define them or whatever in our brain. And those reactions are made up of what can be later again or converted back into words. And but they're not really words because they're really just linked to definitions of words. So again, I'll just make the argument that every word is just a bunch of links to other things that we would call words if we could call them something. But those things themselves are just linked to other things we call words that end up linking to each other in all kinds of front door, back door kind of ways of how they're associated. So, and then all this stuff is probably happening really fast. I mean, it's not like it's not like it thinks about it and then maybe, well, yeah, I think sometimes it does. So I don't know if I can say that absolutely. I'm just saying the common function of consciousness is more of a stream. So it is more of a, it's always running. And I mean, I'd kind of argue that what happens is the in goes in, keeps hitting these filters of complexity. All right, so that goes that creates an outward movement. So as it goes in, it gets wider and wider and wider, and then it goes, as it goes out, it gets narrower, narrower, narrower. And there's a straight line that's really quick. So that would be the crude part of the filter, is the straight line. And then the rest of these nuances, you know, go much more scattered kind of additive value. And then there's this, at the end, just like in the beginning, there's these automatic reactions. At the end, there's automatic reactions. You learn how to speak words, to say them, and that's like a recorded muscle memory. You know, the brain, you sort of feel it says, say, feel. And I say feel. You know, you can almost get a taste of it, you know, of your, you can almost feel that muscle memory working, or you get a taste of it. You know, but the actual structure of the sentences, you know, they're just, it's just what comes out at the end, the reflex. And there's obviously an ability for there to be a gap in time. So sometimes it's got what it needs through the first run. And then there's sometimes where we have to pause and wait for it, because it kind of probably gets to the end and says, this isn't good enough, and do it over. And it has to send it back and say, let's wait for more refinement, or let's wait for, because the further tails, maybe they take longer, and they can fix it. They'll add the structure that appears in the coarse thing to be missing. And how it measures the coarse thing, it might just send it, whatever it's going to send out, it might just send it back to the beginning real quick to see if the same thing comes back or something. I don't know. See if there's an obvious dissidence or something. That happens subconsciously, so we don't really get in, we don't see that stuff. So I mean, if I think I know where you're heading here. You're heading for an idea that it's that's very kinetic. That it's all stuff comes in, stuff goes out. And I'm sort of agreeing with that, but I'm still going to argue that there's the eddy stuff. There's the value-added stuff that got caught up somewhere. It's going to take a little time, and then, like, I might think 5 minutes from now what I wanted to say now, because it just kind of got stuck in there getting fixed, getting refined and getting through the filter. And the filter just couldn't quite get it right the first few 100,000,000 times it processed it. And so it said, just keep working at it until you got something you can use. All right. Yeah, I don't think there's much point in beating it to death, but I guess sometimes we're tripping over words. I mean, to say we don't know anything, I think, is to be really misleading, because the knowing is in the structure of itself. I mean, the knowledge is built into it. There's knowledge, like if you look at a boat, the boat has knowledge built into it, just in the fact that it's been built by a code, by a rational diagram that said this is what will float and this is what will move, and this is so there's knowledge built into its very structure, and there's knowledge built into the very structure of our brain, quite obviously. So I know you're not saying there's no knowledge in our brain. You're just saying we don't we don't have it. Well, I don't know exactly what you're saying, so I'll let that one drop. Yeah, I don't know how important it is. It kind of makes it hard to keep metaphoring and then going to something more explicit. Because now we're back to something more explicit about how the brain works. What it's doing every microsecond. What its processor speed is. How it's error checking. We can get into all kinds of what's it doing with bits and bytes, and how does it combine the bits and bytes and all this stuff. And I'm not saying that's not valuable, because I think it is necessary for us to get to this feel thing, to get to the total, to be able to actually describe what it is, this experience to be conscious, and again the reason why we're conscious. And I want to reiterate that one. But the reason why we're conscious is it's the way the lizard, the ape, and the human communicate. They communicate kind of through consciousness, right? I mean, whatever the lizard does, we don't really give a crap until it floats into our consciousness. Likewise, I mean, the ape is all about consciousness. It's all about emotion and desire and fear. And so yeah, it's the medium through which these things communicate with each other, but they don't communicate in the same language. I mean, the lizard communicates by making noise, let's say. It just makes noise. And that noise makes it hard for the human to do anything really fancy. Do any of its fancy stuff, because the noise is just ruining its little Shakespeare poetic verse. It's doing something sophisticated, and all this noise, this lizard that's just basically a heckler, is screwing up the whole game for it. In the worst case extreme circumstance. The ape, let's see, if it's not noise, the ape is, I guess it's noise again, it's just a degree of noise. So we could say that the lizard is whistles and horns, and the ape is doing that chattery crap, the ooh 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 ah, kind of bullshit. And see, but this doesn't get to the fact that we do feel consciously the desire. So I mean, it's not, consciousness is more than what comes out of them. They're somehow producing it. So I mean, the ape is the vessel in which the desire thing sort of feels like it manifests in. I mean, it's hard to. I guess all I'm saying, it's hard to come up with a medium that can hold something like desire or need, want, fear. I mean, all this stuff is really hard to figure out. How do you hold that stuff? What kind of container do you put that in? So, yeah, we're back to just like I said. So I guess that's where I'm kind of saying, okay, yeah, I got to think about this because just the sound isn't going to work. I don't think a spotlight is exactly going to work either because it's not a spotlight function. I mean, at this very moment, I'm all three characters. I mean, I'm feeling lizardy stuff. I'm distracted by some tensions and emotions, and I'm also humaning. So I mean, I'm doing all three things here at this moment. My consciousness is having input. None of them are asleep right now. So and it's really hard to explain what that medium would be. I mean, how do you produce? What's the cartoon representation? For sadness. It's really going to be hard to come up with a way to put that into the air and to have, and what I mean. How are we going to how do we communicate? Because these things are communicating with each other. They create environments that the other one has to live in. I think we could agree on that. That they create environments the others have to live in, and they don't, and those environments change what that character does. And that's what we call our consciousness, is the medium through which they're doing that transfer of information. But the experience part isn't information. I mean, it's not. It's information, but I mean, it's not made to be communicative. It's just what the thing does. It's just its body odor or something. So, yeah, that's a sticking point. I'm a stuck point. So, yeah, but anyway, I think we probably agree more than we disagree on the fact that the brain is doing this kinetic thing, and even the parts that aren't like immediate, like there was a pause there, they're still kinetic. I mean, the stuff's just rolling through reflexes. It's just getting bounced around. The refinement is just waiting on the pinball to bounce all its little bounces before it goes down the middle thing finally. Something like that. And consciousness is just this veneer. So, I mean, the input comes through the consciousness substantially. There is that subtle part where we don't see, like subliminal messages in a movie or something. I mean, I could put a couple of isolated images in a movie, and your subconscious will catch them, but you won't be consciously aware of catching them. And so the ape will see it, but you won't see it. So you'll never be conscious of it. The you that is the consciousness, right? Let's say, if we call the I just the veneer of consciousness. I mean, the stuff comes in, it's screwed around with, goes around the circle or bounces off the back wall or however you want to look at it, and it goes flying back out these pieces here. And one of the pieces is this conscious experience, the screen, that is the performance or the stage or the, again, it says, yeah, we need something we need a better metaphor for what exactly is the consciousness part. I mean, I like the idea of having a human and an ape and a lizard, but it's almost like they have to be controlling something called the consciousness. You know, that they have levers, like they're all in isolated booths, and they're all looking at screens of what the other guy's producing in consciousness, and they're reacting to that, and then they're throwing their stuff into the screen, like they're all playing a video game created by the other. Something like that. Because it is, the consciousness is part of the function here, I guess is my argument. The reason why we're conscious is because this was the tool the brain could use to see itself, to see what it was doing, and to conform itself to the reality of the overlay, you know, that it was projecting the consciousness on. And so it's the way it's doing the feedback. It has to do it this way. It has to put the pain in front of us as a environmental thing, like any other. So we would recognize a Tyrannosaurus as bad, but the pain thing is also it's almost like it's a thing now. It's almost like pain is a thing to be feared, like a Tyrannosaurus. And the things creating that, the mechanisms creating it, are subtly deterred by our ability to associate what causes the pain thing. I know it gets a little dicey. But anyway, I'm just saying that this is the bowl, the mixing bowl. This is the thing that makes it work. It's not going to work unless you have the bowl that all the crap goes in, to have the whole feedback thing that makes it possible for the brain to do the learning thing. And like I said, I just don't think the machine could work without consciousness as a medium, because of that, for the very reason that I've pointed out, because this feeling thing is the real missing, that's the funky ingredient. That's the one that consciousness has to exist for there to be, because it's like it isn't digital. It's like it's something else. It's like it's a thing the brain creates, and then it becomes part of the environmental structure, becomes part of the mental model, and now we can react to it. And yeah, and we do it in that self-interest way, which is the weird part. Because then we have to give then the consciousness has an identity. It has a hard to describe core of vulnerability somehow, because of that creation of that thing called a pain, or a suffering, or a misery, or a eek. Yeah. So I guess the point is I'm still stuck there. So yeah, I probably shouldn't have started this. I should have thought that through more before I talked about that. I should have just stuck to the other two things. So anyway, yeah. So I think we need, I'm just, we got to be careful verbiage-wise, because if we start saying we don't know nothing, that's just, that just depends on how you define the word know, and how you define what knowledge is. So I don't know if that goes too far. Anyway, enough of the video. Thank you very much. Till next time and such.